Are you ready to break free from the chains of anxiety, stress, and depression? Mike Moore, author and founding pastor of Faith Chapel and host of the How to Win podcast, is here with his new book, Help, My Mind is Under Attack. Learn how to overcome attacks on your mind and live an emotionally healthy life. Grab your copy now. Available as ebook on Amazon and paperback on MikeMoore.com. Embark on your journey to complete mental health and emotional peace.
Hello, I'm Mike Moore, and welcome to the How to Win podcast. These podcasts are based off 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 14. It says, "Now thanks be unto God who always causes us to triumph in Christ." We're so happy to have you with us today. We are going to have a special episode today. We're going to be discussing my book, Help, My Mind is Under Attack. And we're going to have a great time today. It's going to be great. As you know, my daughter oversees my podcast. She's the director, producer of my podcast. And I have a special guest here, guest interviewer today. This is Lana Troll. She's our marketing specialist for Mike Moore Ministries. Good to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here and to get to talk about the book. And I literally could not have a better time. I'm just so excited for everything. I think it's going to be great.
And your life is going to be changed. I know you read the book.
No, yes, I have. And so, that's what I've been on the marketing side of it. I get to have different blog posts and socials and things like that to get, read through and then put back out for everybody. So I'm excited to get to talk about the book.
In this episode, we're going to talk about things that I placed in the book, but I'm going to also share from my personal experiences, having dealt with the mental health issue. I believe it's going to be a real good thing. So I want you to listen carefully, and then I want you to get the book. We'll talk about that later.
Yes.
Okay, let's do it.
And so I'm going to kick it off, and I just want to know, we have Help, My Mind is Under Attack, and you wrote that. So where was the inspiration for it? Why did you begin to, write?
Lana, the origin of the book, it goes back to my pastoring. Mm-hmm. This book, Help, My Mind is Under Attack, is a biblical approach to mental health. There are different approaches to mental health, but this book has to do with a spiritual, Bible-based approach to mental health. And it goes back to my time as a pastor. Mm-hmm. I pastored for 42 years and 8 months. And as a pastor, God taught me that every person has 5 basic needs: spiritual, mm-hmm. mental, emotional, physical, financial, and social. Mm-hmm. I learned in my attempt to lead my congregation to a fulfilled life that many of the problems that my flock, my members were having, and people in the world and in the body of Christ was having, was falling in the area of mental health, their mind, their thinking. And I also discovered that our mental health impacts every area of our life. It impacts how we think. It impacts our emotions, our feelings. Our mental health impacts our decision-making, impacts how we handle pressures in life, but even more so, and I learned this personally in my marriage, mental health impacts how we relate to others. Yeah. So in order to deal with the problems that my members were having, some of my members were having, I had to deal with this mental area, and that's the origin and the genesis of the book, Help, My Mind is Under Attack.
That's amazing. And the thing with the book, it's like mental health has been a topic for, I feel like, Christians that, is in the more recent years, like since 2020 and everything, where they, started talking like really about it. So that's just amazing that you were able to recognize that early on in your ministry. So where do you think, like on the earlier parts of the ministry, where you started to see that? Was it in your marriage or in?
Because it impacted every part mm-hmm. of your life. I saw it every place. In fact, I had mental health issues that impacted my marriage. It impacted my work. It impacted how I led people, because your mental health is so interconnected to all the other 4 areas of your life.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is awesome. And so you talk about eradicating worry and handling stress. Could you open up about a specific time in your pastoral experience where you had to work through that and seek the Lord and seek, that biblical truth?
Yeah, I've said this before, and I've said this over the years, that pastors don't get discount tickets. We pastors deal with everything that everybody else deals with. So we have to learn the truths, and then we have to apply those truths in our lives. We have to model those truths, and then we have to teach it to our congregation. So the bottom line on it was a part of my journey.
Yeah.
Mental health was a part of my experience. And so in the book, I deal with spiritual attacks mentally. I deal with worry. I deal with stress. I deal with discouragement, depression, and rejection. But I begin talking about the mental attacks that we deal with.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you talk about the mental attacks and the worry. So why do you think that Christians worry? Like, what do you think is the reason? Like, I feel like oftentimes you get saved and you're like, okay, well, I'm saved. I have this relationship with the Lord. Everything's supposed to be, rainbows or butterflies. That's at least what you think when you first start out. So why do you think that Christians worry?
Well, I worry. I struggle with worry. I'm worried about my marriage. I'm worried about my health. I'm worried about finances. I'm worried about the church growing. I'm worried about everything. And so Jesus, in Matthew chapter 6, beginning at around the 24th verse throughout the 34th verse, he begins to walk us through worry. And he talks about it, gives us insight on it. And I believe that there's some reasons why I worry and why Christians worry. I'll give you an overview of it, and then we'll come back and look at each area.
Okay.
I believe that Christians worry because of a lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
Secondly, I believe that Christians worry because of a lack of intimacy. Thirdly, I believe that Christians are worried because of a lack of trust or lack of confidence. And then finally, I believe that Christians worry because they have, along with the world, normalized worry. So let's look at these reasons why Christians worry, why you may be worrying, because of a lack of knowledge. Jesus begins talking about what worry is and what we worry about. And he mentions that we worry about finances. No man can have two masters. He will love one, despise the other, can't love God and money. So we worry about money. And then we worry about personal need things like clothing, like food, and then the shelter, and then the things that we have to do to get the food and the shelter and the clothes. And that's work and career and our businesses. Then we worry about our future. We worry about what's going to happen in the future. So the first thing he tells us is, he said, therefore I say unto you. So he gives us knowledge, knowledge about worry. He gives us knowledge about our responsibility to manage the thoughts of our lives. We've been taught, it's interesting, we've been taught that it's important to manage our money. We've been taught to manage our time, but we've not been taught to manage our thoughts.
Wow, yeah.
To manage our thinking. So he shows us that we have to manage our thinking. So he's given us information. He's given us knowledge, because most Christians don't know that they're responsible to manage, or they can manage their thought life. Then secondly, I think a lack of intimacy. It's interesting in Matthew chapter 6 that Jesus brings a term in, Father. And the word father was really foreign to the Jewish people. The Jewish people didn't look at God as a father. They looked at him as God. But he brings in this term father. He talks about how the father take care of the birds, okay? And the father clothes the lilies. Father. Now, I was not raised by my birth father, okay? My biological father. But I was raised by a man who became my father. I didn't know my birth father. My mother had good things to say about him, but I had no relationship with him. So I didn't know what he was like. And because I didn't know what he was like, never had any interaction, I didn't have any intimacy with him. So many Christians, they know about God. They know God is their father, but they don't have intimacy with him. Now, if you don't have intimacy, then you can't have trust. You can't trust someone you don't know. I thought that my birth dad was a good person, but because I didn't have any interaction with him, never had discussions, never went out, never talked, never did anything with my birth dad. So I didn't have the trust that I could rely on him for certain things. And because Christians don't have intimacy, knowing him as father, then they don't have trust. That's why Jesus says, think about it. If God clothes the lilies of the field and you're more valuable than the lilies, O ye of little faith. Notice he says little faith. The word faith there means confidence. He said you lack confidence because you don't have intimacy with the Father. Now, the last reason I mentioned about why Christians worry is what I call normalization. To normalize anything is to take something that is unacceptable, okay, something that is abnormal, and to make it normal, to make it acceptable. Unfortunately, that's what we've done with worry. We've normalized worry, but biblically, worry is abnormal. So I believe Christians believe that it's just how we live. It's just a part of life. But that's not what Jesus teaches. He does not teach that worry is normal. He taught that worry was abnormal. That's why he say, don't do it.
Wow.
Take no thoughts.
Take no thoughts captive. Wow. Yeah. That's very interesting to think about because it is so often I feel like, people, they ask you like, hey, how are you? And you're like, oh, well, I'm fine. And, just, you think about all the other things that are going on in your life. But to know that the Lord really called it abnormal.
And we brag about it. Think about it. We brag about, I'm a worrier. I'm a worrier. But we don't brag about stealing. We don't say, I'm stealing somebody. I slept somebody across that. We know something is wrong with that.
No, yeah.
But we talk about our worry. We brag about our worry. We identify with our worry. We say, I'm a worrier.
Wow, yeah. No, I can't imagine. I was thinking of the times that I'll be like, I'm like, oh, it's just my personality. Like, I gotta, like, I have to think about these things. I'm stressed out about them. Yeah, I'm thinking of it now. It's like, oh, I'm catching those places where it's like, that isn't normal. I wouldn't say that about, oh, I'm just a liar. I'm just thinking about all that I'm doing.
I'm just a fornicator.
Yeah, no, literally.
I'm just a fornicator.
No, yeah.
Nobody would say that because they know that's not normal.
Wow, yeah.
But we normalize worry, so we accept it. And then in our environment, like my mother was a worrier, the mother that raised me. My daddy worried, even though his was more subtle, but it manifested in ulcers in his body. So if you're in an environment of worry, it becomes a normal way for you.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what, like, I even think about, like, my little sister, she's so worried right now with school. She's in school to be a speech pathologist, and it's like in those environments of like school and college and like careers, it's like, oh, I'm worrying about this deadline or this test, all of these things that it's the pressures of the world that you put on yourself, and you don't really like, you lack that intimacy with the Lord to just like give it to him. So that's awesome.
And the issue, and you have to meditate on Matthew 6,
Yeah.
24 through verse 34, because Jesus communicates so much information on this issue of worry.
Yeah.
He says, which of you by worrying can add an inch to your stature?
Mm.
Well, worrying doesn't make you taller.
Yeah.
Okay, what is he saying? He's saying that worry doesn't add anything to your life,
Wow.
but it does take away from your life.
Wow. That is so good. In the book, you highlight the importance of Christians and of people living a stress-free life. So what are some good ways that you think that they can combat that worry with stress-free living?
Stress is a little bit different than worry. Stress has to do with pressure.
Mm.
It's the pressures that we experience of life and how we respond to the pressures of life.
Okay.
So there's some practical tips that I put in the book. I talked about doing one thing at a time.
Mm-hmm.
I talked about we've been taught to multitask.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with multitasking if you can afford it. And what I mean by that, if you can multitask and it doesn't become overwhelming, that's okay. But for most people, and I would be included in the most people in this instance, it's better for me and less pressure if I do one thing at a time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I do one thing, I finish that, then I do another thing, I finish that. So doing one thing at a time. I also talk about getting organized.
Mm-hmm.
We have stress a lot of times because we're not organized.
Yeah.
We don't organize our day. We don't have a to-do list. Every person should have a to-do list.
Yeah.
You should think through, okay, what do I have to do tomorrow? Am I driving anywhere? Preparation. If I'm on drive, should have gas in the car.
Yeah.
Okay. You're going to wear clothes. I know you're going to wear clothes.
Yeah.
So why wait till the day to get your clothes ready?
No,
get your clothes ready the day before. Get organized. Yeah. And then I talk about stop procrastinating.
Mm.
Stop procrastinating. Much of the time we have things, we know we have to clean the garage, we know we have to clean the closet, and we just put it off, we keep putting it off. But the thought stays there.
Yeah.
See, the pressure of doing it stays there because we're procrastinating. And then I talk about just taking a nap.
Amen. Amen to that one.
Sometimes you have to take a nap.
Yeah.
You have to exercise.
Yeah.
You have to find out what helps you to relieve stress. Maybe for you, some of you, going to the movies. I like to go to the movies.
Yeah.
When I'm at the movies, I'm not worried about anything. I don't feel any pressure. So you have to decide, okay, what relieves the stress on your life? I tell you something that we have not known. Here again, a lack of knowledge. In the Bible, in the very beginning, God worked 6 days, rested the seventh. Worked 6 days, rested the seventh.
Yeah.
That is a Sabbath principle.
Yeah.
Work, rest, cycle. Work, rest, cycle.
Yeah.
God never created us, Lana, to work all the time.
Yeah.
He never created our bodies. Our bodies don't function that way.
Yeah.
So we have to work and rest, and then we have to sometimes take an extended rest called a vacation.
Yeah.
And the root word of the word vacation is to vacate. In other words, we have to leave some things behind.
Yeah.
So if we're taking work on our vacation, that's not a vacation.
Yeah. Yeah.
We just transported our work to another environment because the word vacation means to vacate, mean I leave that behind.
Yeah. Man, that's what, a bunch of those I'm thinking through. I don't know if I'll ever be able to get to where I pick out my outfit before I can the day, because look, I will try on about 6 or 7 of them
Well,
before I like what I can leave leave the door of my outfit. But I may need to try an attempt at it.
I think you need to try.
I'll do an attempt.
You need to try.
But yeah, that's what even like I think of like stuff with just like the multitasking and trying to, have like procrastinating and all of that. It's like, it's so easy, I feel like, for today people, because everything, you have work, life, everything in your hand, your phone.
Right.
And it's all connected to like your laptop, and like everything's just one big, like, atmosphere of everything intertwined. And so like I've been trying to, being 26 and just chronically online, I've been trying to take time to put my phone, like set it down on a nightstand and leave it there and go do other things, because you can just so quickly get wrapped up in things. It's like, I wasn't even going to worry about that today, but here it is, like a notification of it or this.
And it's beeping.
Yeah.
It's buzzing.
No, yeah.
And all this. And we constantly connected to those phones and those computers, but we don't fully realize the level of stress that we're operating under. And much of it is self-induced.
Yeah. Yeah, no, seriously, that's what a lot of it is. Just like, I could, like, I can turn it off. I can turn the phone off and put it on silent. So in the book, you mentioned your own struggles with discouragement. Could you shed some light on how you were able to overcome those types of discouragements that you experienced?
I mentioned earlier that I would share things in the book, but I will also share my own personal journey with some of these issues and discouragement. We all have our flavors. I tell people all the time, everybody has temptation tests and challenges in their personal life. Everybody, care who you are.
Yeah.
And for some people, different things impact their lives in a greater way. For some people, it may be temptation with sex. Some people may be temptation with drugs or alcohol or smoking or just anger, different things. Well, for me, my big challenge was discouragement.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so heavy in my life, so heavy that it felt like a cloud just hanging over me. I really thought that there were times that I needed somebody to minister deliverance to me. I really did, because I would minister in church. People would come up to me and congratulate me on the sermon, tell me how wonderful the sermon was, would give an invitation, and people would respond to the invitation and had a wonderful service. And then on the way home, I struggled with discouragement.
Yeah.
And so it was a journey. It wasn't something I could just snap my finger.
Yeah.
But I had to find out the root cause. And so if you're dealing with anything, you got to be thinking through, okay, why am I dealing with that? I think I know some of the reasons why I was dealing with the discouragement. I think that, like most people, the culture had impacted my psyche, my mentality, my thinking, my attitude. The culture promotes fast, instant gratification.
Yeah.
So we have express lanes in grocery stores, drive-throughs at restaurants, microwaves in our kitchen, same day, and then 24-hour delivery.
Yeah.
So everything is instant. I mean, is now, get it now, do it now, have it now. So without realizing it, having an unrenewed mind, and that's what Romans 12:2 talks about. It tells us to not be conformed to the world, but to be transformed by the renewal of the mind. So even though I didn't consciously know, I had that fast mentality. So when the church wasn't growing fast, when my marriage wasn't changing fast or getting better fast, When my issues were not resolved quickly, I was discouraged. I had that. I keep a journal.
Yeah.
I keep a journal, and I encourage every person to have a journal. In my journal, the Spirit of God was dealing with me, but I wasn't fully understanding what he was saying. Okay. And I'm talking about the root of my discouragement was this culture impact of this fast, quick mentality, which is inconsistent with the word, because the word says first the blade, then the ear, then the full corn in the ear. So anything that we're doing is going to require time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in my journal, the Spirit of God was dealing with me, but I didn't fully understand it.
Yeah.
Way back in 1985, the Spirit of God says, in your patience, possess your soul. In your patience, possess your soul. And then later he said this to me. He said, it takes patience in the things of God.
Yeah.
Okay. Then on another occasion, he says, the vision is for an appointed time. You're learning patience.
Yeah.
Then he says, patience is a virtue. So I'm getting all these words about patience, but I'm not applying it to my situation.
Yeah.
And because I had this grow now, grow fast, people get it now, get it fast, it discouraged me.
Wow.
We were not growing fast. And when it took time for people to change and grow and get the message. So that was a part of it, the root of that cultural impact on my life, not understanding that any successful endeavor is going to require time and a process. Another thing that I struggled with was my own ignorance.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that, I didn't go to Bible school, didn't go to seminary, but now I have this calling to build this church, to carry out this vision. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay. So I don't have enough experience with God to know that if he calls me, he will help me.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to take my own personal ability, which is very little, to deal with my challenges.
Yeah.
And in similar fashion, I think many times we confront challenges and problems that are bigger than we are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we try to handle those challenges through our own power.
Yeah.
And because we lack the power to do it, and we're not relying on God, we become discouraged. We lose our courage. We lose the confidence that we have. And then finally, I think the root of my discouragement was I was evaluating success by numbers and not by obedience.
Hey. Yeah.
Because that's what the world does. It measures our success by numbers.
Yeah.
The numbers of people in the pew, the numbers of members, the numbers of revenue, money coming in.
Yeah.
They measure success by numbers. And that's what I did. I saw a few people, little money coming in, little success. And people do it today.
Yeah.
How many likes do I get?
Hey, me. Listen, I will.
Okay. I know God wanted me to post this. Okay. But I didn't get many likes on it. Nobody posted it. Nobody responded
Why
to
don't
it.
like me?
So we measure our success on numbers, not obedience. Okay. So now I'm learning that success is not just about the numbers. It's about my obedience.
Wow.
Am I doing what God wants me to do at this stage?
Wow. That's a big part. This stage. Knowing where you're supposed to be at.
Because think about it. If that's the case, if I measure by obedience, and everything begins with a blade, ear, full corn, and ear. So everything begins small. But if I'm doing what God is calling me to do.
Yeah.
Even though it's small, it's successful.
Yeah.
Because I'm obeying him in what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I wasn't doing that. I wasn't measuring him by obedience. I was measuring by numbers.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you're going to be discouraged.
Yeah.
Because really nothing starts out big.
Yeah. No, that's what I mean. Like you said, with the socials and stuff, I'll get on Facebook or something and I'll like post some pictures. I never get on there hardly, Instagram, TikTok, all those things. Anyways, but I'll get on Facebook to post for my family and like everybody out of state to see. And I'll see that my mom's got more likes on her post than I do. And I'm like, y'all don't like me. Y'all just don't like me no more. So anyways, yeah, I mean, you can put your trust into things that are easy to understand, but it's just not the God thing to really put your trust into. Numbers make sense, but
so the journey, and I think it's the journey for every person. I think to walk victorious over worry and stress and walk victorious over all these different areas that I outline in the book, usually it's not a instant thing.
Yeah.
If the big part of it is understanding.
Wow. Yeah.
Understanding. Once I gain understanding, I can attack the problem.
Yeah.
But if I don't understand the problem, I can't attack it.
I know. I was sitting here going through my mind right now, being like, where are the areas that I need to understand right now? What's the things that I need to understand? But is there any other advice that you would have, say that someone has someone in their life that is going through depression or discouragement? Is there any other specific advice that you would tell them to share with their friends or family, whoever that person is for them?
I think in the book, I not only deal with practical tips, but I also dealt with concepts and principles. So I'll walk you through some concepts that I mentioned in the book. And then we'll navigate to the area of depression.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll have time to talk about rejection.
Yeah.
Okay. I talked about understanding and I talked about practical tips, like not procrastinating, but let's talk principles now. Okay. 3 basic principles that I dealt with in the book. I dealt with the principle of perception. I dealt with the principle of personal responsibility, and I dealt with the principle of priorities.
Yeah.
Okay. Understanding these principles can keep you from getting to the point of depression.
Wow.
Got it?
Yeah.
Okay. So perception has to do with how we view life, how we view things, how we perceive things. In I think it's 2 Kings chapter 6, the Syrian army attacked Israel. Okay. And every time the king of Syria would establish a battle plan, the Israelites knew about it.
Yeah.
And they knew about it because there was a prophet in Israel named Elisha.
Yeah.
He would tell the Israelites what the Syrians were going to do.
Yeah.
So the king thought that they were a snitch in the camp.
Got an op.
And they said, no, there's not a snitch in the camp, but this prophet over there is telling them what you're planning.
Wow.
So the king said, well, we got to capture this Elisha. So he went to Damascus, Dothan or Damascus, one of those, and he surrounded the city that night.
Yeah.
Elijah's servant got up that morning, and he looked out and saw soldiers all around, talking about depression, discouragement, all that. So what he saw was, oh my goodness, we're in trouble because we're surrounded by enemy forces.
Yeah.
Now, He ran back in. He's frantic. He's upset. He's got all the stress and pressure. He's despondent and all that because of what he's looking at.
Yeah.
Perception.
Wow.
The prophet said to him, don't be afraid. Those that are with us, that are more than those that are with them.
Yeah.
And started thinking, are you serious? Did you see all those things?
Yeah.
Okay, perception. So Elisha is perceiving things spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
The servant is perceiving things naturally. That's what leads to our discouragement, our depression, our stress, because we are perceiving life naturally.
Wow. Yeah.
Now watch this. Elijah said, Lord, open up his eyes that he may see.
Yeah.
He opened up the eyes of the servant. God opened up the eyes of the servant, and he saw angels all around.
Yeah.
Okay? That's perception. Much of what we experience has to do with we're perceiving things naturally. What I wanted to do in the book, I wanted to give information, insight, and tools to begin to view life spiritually.
Yeah, through the spiritual lens.
That's what the Bible means by walking by faith and not by sight.
Wow.
There's another concept that I think is very important, and that's personal responsibility.
Yeah.
We have problems because we're trying to handle things that are impossible. Okay? My job, your job is to do the possible.
Mm-hmm.
Let God do the impossible.
Wow. Yeah.
Secondly, we're trying to deal with things outside of our control.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you ask yourself, is this in my control?
Mm-hmm.
If it's not, why worry or why spend all this time getting depressed over something that you cannot even change? Then thirdly, I have to ask myself, okay, I have the resources, I have the capacity, I have the ability, but is it my responsibility? Now, as a pastor, I saw this on several occasions.
Mm-hmm.
I saw individuals in my church that would take on responsibilities that were not theirs. They would decide to parent someone or to take someone in their home or to do different things, and we should help.
Yeah.
But there are times when we are trying to take ownership of somebody else's responsibilities.
Wow.
Okay, so what we're doing now is because we had the resources, we had the capacity, but it was not our responsibility.
Yeah.
It was somebody else. Rather than praying for that person to take their responsibility or some other avenue, we take it on.
Yeah.
So we put resources, time, energy in something that's not even our responsibility. And then when other issues come up that we need the resources, we don't have the resources because we were involved in something else.
Yeah.
Those are the kinds of knowledge-based information that will help people to stay out of the worry, out of the stress, out of depression, and then prioritize it. What's the priority?
Mm-hmm.
God should be first. If you're married, your spouse should be second. Then if you have children, they should be third. I personally believe our church should be fourth because it impacts our decision making.
Yeah.
Then your extended family, work, and all those things. Now, when I understand my priorities, I have to give time, money, energy to my priorities.
Yeah.
So it's going to be limited in what I can give everybody else.
Yeah.
So now I got to decide, okay, what is important? That's a priority.
Mm-hmm.
What is urgent? May not be able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing things that are urgent and we're ignoring priorities.
Wow.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. That's what I even think about. You just talking about knowing knowing the responsibility that you have and what isn't yours. I think of like me and my little sister, the one I was mentioning earlier. She, when she was in school in college at Alabama, I tried to take on the ownership that was my mom's, and I was like trying to be her mother, fussing at her and stuff. And then all of a sudden she stopped picking up my phone calls, and I'm like, why doesn't my little sister talk to me? And it's because I was trying to control things that were outside of, my responsibility. That it wasn't my job to be her mom. It was my job to be her sister.
Your job was to be her sister.
Yeah. And I see it now, like hindsight of it, but I feel like oftentimes that's what a lot of people will do, is just take on those responsibilities that are beyond theirs, and even things that's like, leave the impossible to God, and you do the possible, like wake up every day and do what he's put in front of you. Then don't try to solve the world's problems all today of things that's like outside of your control.
Right.
It's just there's so much wisdom in that, and also just a good thing to always keep at the forefront of people's minds of, you do the possible, let God do the impossible, and remind yourself of that. So that's awesome.
You asked about what advice I would with depression.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I would say. Because the book now is a biblical approach to mental health, that doesn't mean that there's not a natural approach. But what I do is I take the scriptures and I try to help people to deal with it from a spiritual standpoint. On a natural level, I think people should get professional counseling. Even in the area on depression, we mentioned a suicide hotline.
Yeah.
We mentioned a crisis center number. I think that there's something very important, if you're having serious issues with suicide and depression, to get professional help.
Yeah.
I think that's very important.
Yeah.
In that section on depression, I talk about Elijah, who had entered into a state of depression. And there were some keys. If you study out, I think it's 1 Kings 18th chapter, there were some things that he did that led to the depression, but what got him out of the depression was several things.
Mm-hmm.
Isolation. Depressed people normally isolate themselves.
Yeah.
Okay. That's when you isolate yourself, now you're in your own head. Mm-hmm. You have no influence, anybody bringing anything to your mind. So Satan now can just challenge, it's just you. He cornered you off. Mm-hmm. And Elijah separated himself. He off in a cave somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay. So he needed to connect.
Yeah.
Well, you got to connect to people. Mm-hmm. Not only connection, allow people to speak into your life. That's where small groups come from.
Yeah.
Because in small groups, you can be in a cave, but somebody else in your group outside the cave, and they can encourage you to get out of the cave.
Yeah.
Rest sometimes. Elijah needed to rest. He was tired. He was physically tired, so he had to rest, get himself together. And then God restored his vision of his future. Mm-hmm. That's why I said keep a journal.
Yeah.
Because if you got a journal, you can always go back and look at it, what God said to you about your future.
Yeah.
But I encourage you to add the natural with the spiritual to overcome issues like that.
No, that is so important. That's what just thinking through, like, writing out stuff and having like a journal of things. I have caught myself a lot of times, going back, like when things are stressful and things are wrong, being like, why, God, why? And then I can go back and look at stuff. It's like, oh, well, this is why I said yes to like doing this and I heard you in this way. So that's awesome. And especially the pairing it with the natural help, like, having a counselor, having your group of people, because they don't have, tunnel vision. You have tunnel vision about your issue, but they can see something more clear than like what you'll be able to. They're not so surrounded with your circumstance and your emotions and feelings. So that's awesome. But as we, just close up on this, what advice would you give people when it comes to after they read the book?
I would say, out of everything in the book, you should get that we're in a thought war.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an area war. It's not a naval war. It's not a ground war. That's natural. It's not a cyber war. It's a thought war.
Mm-hmm.
Understand that. I would say to those that are listening to me, understand that thought management is your responsibility. That is not God's responsibility to manage the thoughts of your mind, because that's where Satan is going to attack. And then I would say, take responsibility.
Yeah.
Take ownership of your mind. Take ownership of your thoughts, and meditate in the Word. I mean, meditate. And the beauty of the book is full of scriptures.
Yeah.
Look up the scriptures. Meditate the scriptures. Reread the book, because I think if you go back and read it, you'll see things you hadn't seen before. And I just believe it's going to be a blessing.
No, that's what I'm thinking through right now. I was like, I need to go back and reread and not do it so much as on the work side of stuff, but like, really do it where it's applying to my life. And even y'all, I get some, inside scoops from Mike himself. And so you're just so confident in, listing off scripture and verses to pray about and to meditate on. And so I know that that's like something that I want to do even out of this, is like go find those scriptures that are speaking specifically to my areas of worry or, doubt, different things like that, and have the scripture to meditate on. So,
well, Lana, tell them where they can get the book.
Yes. So you can purchase the book from mikemore.com. And the really cool thing is not only can you receive a paperback copy, but you can have it on your phone or on your Kindle. If you click through, you have an ebook that is through Amazon. So you can find that on mikemore.com and check it out. Honestly, everyone needs to have a copy, so you should go grab one.
So I want to thank Alana for being our guest today. I want to thank Tiffany. I want to thank you. Listen, we've had a wonderful time. I pray that this blesses you. Come on, get this book and tell folk about it. In fact, you can do small groups with it. My wife is doing a small group using this book. So you could take the book and share it, get it out. We want it to go viral. We believe it's a bestseller.
Yes.
Listen, thank you so very much for this time. Listen, I pray that you have a great rest of the week, and I look forward to seeing you next time.
Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.